Welcome to 5 Minutes of Faith, brought to you by Believers Ministry, where we're reaching the community with the love of Christ, one person, one family at a time. Join us as we are taking excerpts from our pastor's recent sermon. It's going to be about 5 minutes.
The title of today's message is Faithfulness Tested. Amen. Our lesson text will be taken from Matthew the 25th chapter, verses 14 to 30. Today we're going to look at the parable Jesus told of the talents and the 3 servants, which emphasizes the importance of faithfulness. This parable points out that we will be judged and rewarded on the basis of our faithfulness in using what God has entrusted to us. This, of course, includes us offering up ourselves to God, first and foremost, as faithful servants to be used for His glory. Our faithfulness to God will be tested. He did not use the one talent that his master gave him, so he just used that as an excuse. He counted his one talent as not being important and that it was not needed. He did not appreciate what his master gave him. We have to know that whatever God entrusts to us, it is important for us to appreciate it. Yes. No matter how small it may appear, it is needed. And we must be willing to use what God entrusts to us. What we do for God counts and is never overlooked by God. This servant didn't have the faith and courage to take a risk. He decided to play it safe. Therefore, he missed the opportunity that his master was giving him to be a faithful servant over what God or what the master had entrusted to him. As it relates to us, it'd be what God entrusts to us. Yes. This servant was only thinking of himself. He was lazy. He wasn't willing to step out on faith and take a risk. The same is true for some of us. It could be that some of us are lazy and not willing to step out on faith and take a risk. Some of us could be afraid to step out on faith for a number of reasons. It could be that you are afraid that you're going to fail, or afraid of being judged by people, or afraid that you're not good enough to serve. Or Satan may have you believe his lie that you have nothing to offer. That serving God is only for superstars. But Satan's a liar and the father of lies. Don't believe his lies. The truth is, there are no superstars. Even though some people might make you think they're a superstar, there's only one superstar, and his name is Jesus Christ. Well, it's possible to serve in your church for a lifetime without ever being a servant. To be a servant, you must have a servant's heart. How can you know if you have the heart of a servant? You have to think like a servant. Jesus was a servant. He came to serve, not to be served. God is always more interested in why we do something than in what we do. You have to serve for the right reason. When Jesus is your master, money serves you. But if money is your master, you become its slave. Having money is not a sin, but failing to use it for God's glory is. The Bible is clear. God uses money to test your faithfulness as a servant. That's why Jesus talked more about money than he did about either heaven or hell. How you manage the money God has entrusted to you affects how much God can bless your life. Faithfulness means the time I was there, I was faithful to the work. I was faithful to God's call on my life. I obeyed God's instructions. Some people are just putting their time in. They're just in attendance, but not faithful in doing the work God called them to do. Faithfulness is time tested, but faithfulness is not time. Some Christians are always talking about how they used to serve the Lord. Well, thank God for the memory. But what are you doing now? Come on. Glory be to God. Some folks, all they're talking about is sitting in the same pew for 25, 30 years, just sitting. What else you doing? Glory be to God. You know, God's got different seasons in your life. He's got different seasons in your life. You got to move when He's through with this season. But if you stay in this season until He moves you to the next season, but He wants you to bloom right where you are. And then when it's time to get your marching orders, you don't need to go around to co-signers. You go to the throne of God and you ask God, what would you have me to do? Set down my voices and listen to God Almighty. You better be careful. Real servants. They're faithful. They're trustworthy, dependable, and they are committed to the work that God has called them to do.
We trust that the word has encouraged you, has impacted your life, and we'd like to extend a cordial invitation to come out and join us in service. Our address is 465 Waterbury Court, Suite E, Gahanna, Ohio, 43230.